alcohol?
Drugs and alcohol. My wife is.
All right, welcome everybody to the Righthand Park Commission meeting of April 19th, 2016. Please rise, and Bill Loy, would you lead us in the pledge today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Debbie, please call the roll.
Julie Killian, Dennis Pilla, Joseph Sack,
Here.
Benedict Salanitro, Paul Rosenberg,
Here.
Gary Zuckerman.
Here. Just one note, we were advised by both Dennis Pilla and Julie Killian that they would be here but arriving late, and Benny advised us last week that he was out of town and would be excused from the meeting. We only have 3 up here, so we do not have a voting quorum. So we will not be taking any votes until we get at least a 4th person. However, we can go forward with items that do not require a vote, and the first one would be public comment. Do we have members of the public who wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name, address, and affiliation.
Good evening. My name's Megan Corbett. I'm a member of the Friends of the Rye Town Park, and we submitted a statement on Friday to the commissioners.
Your address, please.
My address is 600 Forest Avenue, Rye, New York. I'm going to read that statement now. The Friends of the Rye Town Park is a 501c3 not-for-profit volunteer citizens group formed in 1991 by residents of Rye Town, which includes the city of Rye, Portchester, Rye Brook, and Rye Neck. We work cooperatively with, but independently from the commission, the municipal body that governs, manages, and operates the park and the beach. Our mission is to restore the park's landscape and work to preserve its beauty and historic significance for the enjoyment and passive recreation of the community, a renaissance that began back in 1991 after many decades of deferred maintenance. Our 3 main functions are to serve as an advocate for the park, as an ombudsman organization, and to enhance the plantings and maintenance of this passive park. We do not set policy or pricing. We receive no monies from the Rye Town Park Commission or any of the municipalities involved in the park. In fact, we fundraise privately from community members to fund our mission. Past projects have included the refurbishment of the duck pond, additional maintenance projects not covered by the park's budget, the decorative fence surrounding the beach, amongst many others. Currently, the Friends have continued planting and maintaining the gardens in and around the park and continuing to support the maintenance of the trees that we have planted. In fall 2016, we will be sharing the cost of planting several new trees with the commission. The Friends have carefully reviewed the proposals for the operation of the Rye Town Park for 2016, both individually and as a body, and fully endorsed the proposal of the City of Rye to run the park. Since the park is located within the City of Rye boundaries, the city has a compelling reason to offer to administer the park. This proposal has our full endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
That was great, Megan. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jamie Jensen. I live at 588 Forest Avenue, directly across from the park. I appreciate seeing all your familiar faces, and I really want to thank you for your continued commitment. As a resident of the City of Rye, I use the park frequently in all seasons. It is truly a beautiful treasure, and that's one of the reasons we moved to Rye. I have a number of questions, basically, so I'm just going to put them out there because I didn't know if there would be another opportunity in your discussion this evening to have us ask questions, so I'll put them up front. But before I do that, I want to thank Bill Lawyer publicly. Bill cares for the park. He works tremendously hard as our external relations representative for the town. He is, as many people say to me, the it guy. If there's anything you need to figure out about the park and you don't know who to talk to, it is Bill. Bill is what makes it feel like a park. As you consider the decisions you're going forward, and as you consider hiring a park director, you should vet those applications with Bill. Bill is one of the few people that I've met who actually understands that this park is more than a revenue-generating asset, and he is on staff, and I really do think you should look to him for input. Now for my questions. Given the governance process for managing the town park can at times seem confusing, and many of us feel very rushed, I ask you consider the following questions when you're discussing process later on. What is the mission of the park? And are you managing to that mission in your budgeting? Who is the park intended to serve? And if it is the 45,000 people living in the town of Rye, why is, depending on the estimate, 75 to 92% of the beach users in the summer non-residents? If we want to reduce the use of green space, minimize noise, traffic, and trash in the residential neighborhoods surrounding the park, what strategies are being proposed by those interested in becoming park operators and by those applying for the park director job? How will the park director you are currently advertising for be responsible for the park operators? Can you explain the relationship between the future park operators and the park director? Finally, how will you advertise the May 14th public meeting at the park? And how will you ensure that the public is kept informed and involved in the RFQ process moving forward? Thank you.
Ma'am, do you have a
You want all the
a
questions?
copy? Sure.
Here you go.
We'll make that part of the record. Terrific. Thank you so much. Those are excellent questions. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ted Stein. I'm a resident at 335 Rye Beach Avenue in Rye, just down the street from the park. Those were great questions, and some sort of big picture concerns are before you, obviously. I wanted to address something that is a much more limited issue and that would have been on my mind absent all of the RFQ and management questions that now face you. And that has to do with the shuttle that the restaurants operate between Seaside Johnny's and the Tiki Bar. And they not only operate it, they promote it with great vigor, and they drive those vehicles with great vigor on a pathway along the fence that I have always understood to be a footpath, and that's always served that function, and that ought to. I don't know if there's been any designation of that path as suitable for vehicular traffic. If not, this town passed an ordinance that I understand remains in effect and that's still posted on the town website, stating that no person shall drive any automobile, motorcycle, or other vehicle in any part of the park or parkways except on proper drives and parking areas. Paths established as bridle paths, footpaths, or bicycle paths shall not be used for vehicular traffic. That's section 4410 of the Rye Town Code.
It's Rye Town, not the Rye City?
It is Rye Town,
Okay.
which I would expect is operative in the Rye Town Park. And there's another provision in 44C, which refers to buses with or without passengers, other vehicles, carts, et cetera. No such vehicles should be driven in any part of the park or parkway. I don't understand why private enterprises, for their own private gain, are allowed to abuse park property in the way that they do. And, you know, I don't have the privilege of having reviewed their leases or the legal agreements between Rye Town and Seaside Johnny's, which would govern the park portion of that path. Obviously, Playland and the county did what they did or do what they do with regard to the boardwalk. But those vehicles, I don't think should be there. I don't know if there's any public support for them being there. Certainly, it's convenient and fun for intoxicated customers of those enterprises to be ferried back and forth like an amusement park, but that's not what Rye Town Park is. And this would be a great time to bring it up with Seaside Johnny's management. We've seen their signage going up, and this will be happening again. It's unsafe. I've witnessed a lot of near accidents, and that aside, it's just not consistent with the public purpose, the aesthetics of the park, or, you know, in the long run, safety, because, you know, in the long run, you take enough of those trips, something bad is going to happen. So as the folks who Seaside Johnny's ultimately has to answer to, I'd ask that you speak with them before this season and have that either eliminated, or if there is a provision in their lease that allows this to occur, have it occur in a much safer manner than I've seen it over the past couple of years.
Thank you. May I ask you, do you have a copy of that to give to Debbie? Is there a legal citation in there?
Oh, I want to see
The card, or if we could
the
photograph
postcard.
I want to see the
actually.
postcard,
The
Yeah.
postcard.
the advertisement from Tiki Bar.
The statute sounds pretty standard. I'm sure that the city of Rye has similar
Yeah,
ordinances.
I would look into,
We'll check.
I wanted the site because I'm curious as to when that was passed, if it was in fact before the creation of the city of Rye, because there would be an overlapping jurisdiction.
want to see the statute,
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
I-
This I just
I mean, we're
downloaded
not
from
going to
the town's
discuss it. Can
website.
It's
you
on their
just give it to
website, yeah.
council and, or email it to us?
Gary. So this came up twice. Can I?
Sure.
So this came up twice last year. Terry, help me out. I don't recall what we decided to. Several people complained about this last year. I believe we had Mr. Noto check and ensure that it's not in their lease, which I'm pretty certain that it's not. Was somebody going to speak to?
Yes,
Tiki
we
Bar?
did, and, you know, we were advised that the little golf cart was going a little bit too fast, and we did speak with the management at Seaside Johnny's, and it did stop. But we also drive all the golf carts from the park on those paths too.
That's a good point.
Okay, so, you know, and we do, I mean, the park staff and, you know, once we did talk to the management at Seaside Johnny's, it did, you know, they became aware of being more cognizant of the public safety. And so are we when we drive the golf carts.
Yeah, but I
Thank
think,
you.
isn't it a
I see
bit
that?
different when we have
Yeah,
park staff
You're authorized.
for park business, which as Dennis just pointed out, you're authorized to do
Right,
that.
right.
Not
as
abide by a
opposed-
golf
As
cart.
opposed to shuttling patrons who may or may not be inebriated between the two
Right.
facilities. That's a totally different
Yeah,
situation.
I am totally unaware of where the permission was given.
There was
Do-
no permission given.
Okay.
Do you know if this is is this current? Or this is a current?
Well, they're
This
not
is not
open
from
yet.
last year, though.
That's
Is it-
why,
That's John, right?
Yes, excuse me, Russell Gold. It was from last year,
Russell,
and it
please give your name, your address again.
yeah, Russ Gold, 7 Hayward Place, Rye, New York.
Thank you.
That was obtained last year. It was just from a Take-One holder at Seaside Johnny's. And in addition to that, there is a temporary portable, for lack of a whatever, display fence that is erected during season at the Tiki Bar, which literally says shuttle pickup zone here. You know, pick up the shuttle here. So, and that's put out once the
Well,
Tiki
we don't
Bar
know
opens.
that for sure. that
Do they
it's
also
good.
shuttle to the parking lot? Like, what, is the shuttle only between Tiki Bar and Seaside Johnny's, or do they shuttle their people from
Well-
Tiki Bar to the Playland parking lot?
that I don't know on the other side to our end, it stops at the entrance to Seaside.
So,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
we don't know if this is a recent or from last year, but certainly we could find out. But I
No,
I
it's
think,
it's definitely from last year,
Right.
from the end of last year.
so we don't know if they're going to do it again this year, and we'll make sure we'll speak to them. But in addition, Mayor Sack, I think that we should look in the Rye City Code as well and see if there's a similar provision, and then determine, you know, the enforceability of it. Because
Mr. Chair? Mr. Ambrose is in the audience, actually, right? Hey, John.
I have my turn up to bat.
Okay.
Can I see the ad?
One of the other issues, as Mr. Stein was saying earlier, is that the route of these shuttles goes through a couple of blind hairpin turns. They go up the ramp at the north end, and there's a stone structure, a bench, and then there's a stone pillar on the right, and you cannot. It's very difficult for these vehicles to make the turn, and they're blind and coming both ways. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ambrose.
My name is John Ambrose. I'm one of the owners and operators of Seaside Johnny's and the Pier Restaurant and Tiki Bar. You know, in defense of our shuttle service, you know, it's more or less an added amenity that we offer, that we do a cross promotion between the Pier Restaurant and Seaside and back and forth. In terms of people's concern about it's unsafe or whatever, I stand on our record that there's never been an incident. I will say that for people who have concerns that the driver is going too fast or whatever, I don't think that has any basis, because given the terrain that the golf cart's got to travel through, it does sound exaggerated. It's a little bit of a rickety thing. And in turn, you know, over at the Pier Restaurant, we do have a beautiful thing with the shuttle service, and we feature our menu over at Seaside. You know, I'm a restaurant man my whole life. I love our menu at Seaside. Over at the Tiki Bar, it's a toned-down menu. And anyhow, Seaside, in our 16-plus years, has always been a family restaurant and will always be a family restaurant as long as myself and my partner, Sam Chernin, are involved. Because in all the years that we're there, I understand what Rye wants and what Rye doesn't want. And anyhow, we've operated accordingly. And I will never compromise in that pursuit, because I am a Rye resident. I understand what people want and don't want. And, you know, the earlier suggestion that we were running a intoxicated express, I think is unfounded and just not right. But we will always operate in the best interests of Rye, and that's my promise to the commission and to everybody in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambrose.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, could I just direct one question to Mr. Ambrose? Did you ever receive permission from the Righthand Park Commission to operate a cart on the premise of the park?
No, not specifically, no. But it was never brought up. It was never an issue.
Oh.
And, you know, if we going forward, if we have to dialogue about that.
Yeah, I would think we do, because, like, what if I brought a golf cart there, right?
What, I mean, does the county allow you? I mean, obviously, part of it's on the county property, then it flips over to our property.
No, once again, it never came up.
I guess with either entity.
Correct.
I think it's something we need to look into it as the season gets started.
Well, I think until
It's a cool idea.
we have a fuller discussion, and until we actually make an affirmative decision, I think to Mayor Pilla's point, as of now, there is no permission. So I think until a decision is made to allow it, and I'm not sure that decision is forthcoming, it seems to me that probably from a park management perspective, it should not continue, John. I guess, I hear what you're saying about, to your knowledge, there being no incident. But certainly there's a perception out there from people who have spoken here tonight that there is a safety issue. And I guess the way I would look at it is, even if your shuttle is being driven, let's just assume for the sake of argument that's being driven completely safely in the sense that it's going at a appropriate rate of speed, whatever that is, and is not being driven with too many people on board or whatnot, whatever all those various factors might be. I think it still, just by virtue of its operation, creates a risk, which might be deemed to be an unnecessary risk, especially given the fact that, as you acknowledge, it is an added amenity, so to speak, and not really something that is required. Certainly not required, maybe from your business perspective it is, but from the perspective of Righthand Park, which has a separate identity from Playland and doesn't have a direct connection to any other business going on at Playland, that we might say not the right thing. And I appreciate, you putting out there that you want to do the right thing by Rye. I get that. I don't doubt you at all. But I think from my point of view, and again, I'd have to hear what my colleagues think, and I have an idea of maybe what some think. I think I'm leaning towards saying no more. But I guess until we say yes, by default, it's a no for now, unless I'm misjudging the
I
situation.
agree with you completely, Joe. I think that, we need to look at the lease and see if there's anything in the lease at all, and if it's silent, then I think the commission needs to adopt a policy, and if, until the policy is adopted, to the contrary, I think the answer is no. And I think also one of the things that we must seriously consider in looking at this is the insurance implications.
Yes,
Exactly what
absolutely.
I was going to say, the liability.
We're driving motor vehicles over paths, essentially, and and we have no idea right now if you're covered, and I'm not sure what our coverage is for that, for people being transported on golf carts on the paths.
For wherever it falls into the equation, our golf carts are fully insured.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we, when we have our May 14th, what I would, like to look at what the paths
Sure.
are. And I would also like to have a better understanding of what the golf carts that we use for Righthand Park business
Sure.
actually do and how much they're used.
Mr.
The good
Chair.
news is you can have a lovely walk along the boardwalk between Seaside Johnny's and Tiki Bar.
Could we get a legal opinion, please? Mr. Nota's our counsel too, right?
Right.
Can we get a legal opinion about the applicability of section 4410 and 44C of the Right Town Code to the park itself? And then the insurance is
Yeah, so when Mr. Noto's away and
Yeah.
Martha's sitting in today.
So the park is in the city of Rye, so
Right.
it would be governed by City of Rye code.
I would think, yeah.
That much I
I would-
can say with confidence, but.
I would agree with that, Mayor. And I think that's why I asked the question of when that section was instituted, before or after the City of Rye's existence. And, but certainly I would think that the policing function, motor vehicle code, et cetera, would be enforceable by the City of Rye rather
Right, well,
than the
there's
town.
also always been a symbiotic relationship between statute and policy. I think back to the dog discussion. I mean, certainly, the City of Rye could have, at any point, passed a law, but we also, wanted to make sure that it was policy of the commission as well. So I think, one goes hand in hand with the other in a perfect world.
I agree. No problem with that. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Philip Horner from 129 Beach Avenue in Rye Neck. And I came last month to express a couple of concerns about the beach and picked up your package and is really only now learning about the RFQ process. From what I understand and what I've heard, I would be basically in sympathy with the Friends of the Rye Town Park in that passive use and kind of the way it is now, beautified, would be what I would like to see. What that means to me is keep minimizing commercial uses. The idea of putting in more restaurants and water skis and some of the things that were in the park, I would be horrified. The one thing I want to add, though, to what they said is I'm a little nervous about the question of access. I wouldn't want the philosophy to change to let's keep it for local people only and come up with schemes and pricing and access that discourage use of the beach. I think it's a more general asset, and I just wanted to put that into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Gentleman in the back.
Good evening. I'm David Rasmussen, former president of the Friends of Righthand Park and current board member, and I live on Central Avenue in Portchester. Just want to add a few other remarks to what I've just heard tonight. I agree with the comments that have been made about minimizing commercial intrusions into the park. I think one of the goals of the park should be to serve the residents of the town and city of Rye primarily. That doesn't mean that we exclude other people. The Friends of Righthand Park have worked for years to beautify the park with the concept that the park should be open to people. It's a point of public access to Long Island Sound. But I don't think we should forget its purpose in serving town and city residents either. I think it's a mistake to make it into a major regional destination such as Playland. I think what we want there, and what the Friends have been working for the past quarter century really, is to have a beautiful place where residents and other people can come and enjoy the beauty of Long Island Sound in a place that is not like Playland, not full of noise, not full of rides or other attractions, but a lovely pastoral green space with a view of Long Island Sound. And I think sometimes, I know that there's major capital improvements that need to be done in the park, but I think we sometimes lose sight of the benefit of having a park for passive recreation. And I think it's something that many people are willing to pay taxes to have, because it's a very valuable place for people to have recreation in a quiet and peaceful manner in a beautiful natural setting. So I just wanted to emphasize those points.
Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen. Any other public comment? State your
Hello,
name.
my first name is Deirdre, my last name is Curran, and I have, for most of the last 25 years, at one point of time or another, been a resident of the town of Rye, either in Portchester or Rye, but I currently live at 71 Halsted Avenue in Harrison. I am a daily visitor to Rye Town Park and Playland, and as I think at this point all of you know, I'm heavily involved in following the discussion that's going on about privatizing management of Playland, so I have a few concerns. I have a few things I want to say. So I have a quick question. I see that on the agenda there's a discussion about the RFQ process and also the selection of a park director. Will there be an opportunity after those discussions for further public comments about those agenda items, or is this the only opportunity we have to say anything about those?
I think we can allow discussion.
Okay, so I won't say anything about those now. I'll probably be back up here later. I want to back up pretty much everything everybody before me has said. John, I'm sorry, but I'm a pedestrian down there almost every night, and those golf carts are a problem. You may not have had an incident yet, but you have a lot of near misses, and often there are teenagers driving those cars way too fast with their friends joyriding. They're going through crowded pedestrians. They're beeping the horn. I can't tell you how many times they've almost hit my dog, who is on leash with me. I have to get out of their way. People with strollers and old people have to get out of their way. It's a problem. It's really a problem, and it really needs to be rethought. I know it's a nice amenity for you to have for your clients, but it's not good for the pedestrians that are using the boardwalk and the pathway in the park. It's really not. It's not safe. I also want to back up the Friends of Rye Town Park in their recommendation that you, well, we'll talk about this later, that you kind of just go with the RFQ response for the city of Rye. And I have a quick question. I was down there last night around this time with my dog, and I noticed that there's sort of a stream that comes as runoff from the duck pond, and Bill may be able to answer this question. And when we've had a storm and the duck pond is full and there's a lot of runoff, it turns into sort of swampy, and it goes through a tunnel, and I guess it feeds out through a pipe into the sound. And I expect to see that after a major rainstorm. But I was walking past it last night, and it was an active flowing stream. And I looked at it and I thought, well, why is the duck pond overflowing so strenuously? I tried to remember when the last time was that it rained, and then I got home and all the news reports were that we've had so little rain lately that there are wildfire alerts in Westchester today because of the winds. And I don't know if if you're all aware, I'm not sure where all that water was coming from, because it's not normal that we've had so many dry days and there would be that much water coming off of the duck pond, and it must be feeding into the duck pond from somewhere. And I don't know if there's a plumbing problem or if that needs to be looked into. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, yes.
Hi, I'm just going to speak to the Deirdre's point about where is the water coming from. Well, there's always a delay, and I realize that there has been a lot of dry weather, but we had a fair amount of rain last week. I think it was Tuesday, and then there was some rain the week before that. There's a delayed runoff. The water comes to the pond from the storm drains along Forest Avenue. And there's 3 of them that feed right into the pond. And then there's also the runoff from the park itself, from the northwestern end where it's hilly and the water comes down and flows into it. So that's where you expect the water. And just as an aside, the whole pond was renovated for the purpose of trying to filter out the nutrients and pollutants that get into that water from the runoff on Forest Avenue before that water goes out into Long Island Sound. And that we had gotten the Friends had gotten a large grant from the state DEC to redo that pond for that purpose. So that, as much as I know now, there could be, and as a fellow dog walker and a person who goes around the neighborhood, frequently you'll find, for whatever reason, construction projects are going on and they're filtering water right in. This happened on Forest Avenue on the 2 houses that were built there in the last couple of years. On numerous occasions, water would be just pouring out of what maybe they were doing some kind of work to put in basements. I don't know, but just anecdotally, that would be the other thing that could result in all this water, even when we haven't had a lot of rain.
Thank you, Bill.
If I could add, and if Benny were here, he would probably remember better than me, but if I'm not mistaken, within the last year or so, the storm drains that feed into the pond were repaired. That I think that they were cracked or destroyed or not up to par, and I think that they were fixed. I don't know if, I think we probably would have seen this phenomenon you're talking about earlier than just this week, but that, for all I know, that contributes as well.
Because the broken pipes are not broken anymore, so the water's going.
Right, I'm no engineer, but I would suggest that as a possible theory.
We can ask Benny when he comes back. Good idea. Mr. Ambrose.
Well, just to follow up on the thing about our amenity of carrying people, let's put it to rest. You don't have to have any further discussion. We will suspend that operation immediately.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
That's a nice
Okay.
gesture.
And this is just another point relative to the operation of Rye Town Park. You know, having been there for 16 years, going into year 17, I go into this year with a lot of intrepidation in my mind about the new fee structure, because I remember back in the day when the beach used to be packed with people, when it was user-friendly, pricing-wise, et cetera, and then when the prices went from, for argument's sake, for non-residents from $7 to $15, you know, it had a tremendous effect on the beach. And anyhow, with this year going forward, with $15 to park the car, $10 to get on the beach, a $25 bill for an individual, and on the weekend, I've been apprised that it's $20 to park the car and $15. I hope that the commission has an open mind to monitor this, because I can guarantee you there will be tremendous backlash with people revolting against this. And my IE, futuristically speaking, is going to be on Memorial Day weekend. If we have a beautiful weekend, all you're going to have to do is look at the people on the grass. They'll pay the $20 to park the car, caught up in the euphoria of the start of the season, but they will revolt on paying another $15 to get on the sand. So I just want you to have an open mind and, you know, act accordingly in the best interest of all our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section. Let's go back to adoption of the
Gary,
minutes.
there's
Mr. Chair,
people in back raising
We have somebody in the back?
Yeah.
Come up.
Greetings, board members. My name is Edward Cronin. I grew up in the city of Rye. I actually live here in the town of Rye Village of Portchester, 2 buildings away in the former Lifesaver factory.
Cool.
What's the address, please?
1 Landmark Square. I very much enjoy Rye Town Park. And in my personal, development experience, I've learned that this dual jurisdiction, causes a lot of cumbersome operational issues. I do agree that it would be great if the city of Rye could just take over Rye Town Park. I'm just a little leery that they're going to be able to make the capital contributions necessary in order to bring the park up to where it needs to be. Last week, I was walking along the boardwalk. I was actually interviewed by a news channel about Governor Cuomo talking about putting a bridge from Long Island to Westchester. And I'm scratching my head and I'm saying, please not Rye. Please
I
not
think
Rye.
that's a tunnel they were talking about.
Yeah. But
No,
anyways,
they start talking about a bridge again.
Again? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
I started
gonna
to see the exit of Playland Parkway right to the water, and it's access to I-95, and I'm a little leery that if we don't do something, that they may really consider that project. So I do believe that maybe a little bit of retail development. I mean, I'm not trying to take away the feel of the park, but I do know that we will need to increase revenue in order to make the capital improvements necessary. And I don't believe current operations will be able to sustain that. So that's just my 2 cents. I love both sides, so I'd love to see a win-win solution here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comment? All right, we'll close the public comment period. Go back to adoption of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. Do we have any additions, changes, modifications?
I would just observe that many times in the minutes, especially from the special meeting, Debbie, you have a shorthand that says discussion ensued, and then there's not much detail as to the discussion that ensued, and that's fine, especially in today's day and age where everything's on videotape and you can just go back and look at the videotape, and quite frankly, the video is probably a much better record than the minutes. So I guess if I had my druthers, I would prefer a little color as opposed to no color at all. But I guess I can live with it. But what I would say is there is one thing that was not included in the ensuing discussion, which I think ought to make an appearance, and that is with regard to the discussion that we had. It was primarily Mayor Rosenberg and I were talking about the auditor, and my takeaway from the discussion was that we would hire the town of Rye's accountant and the city of Rye's auditor. So you can go back and check that on the videotape, but I thought that there ought to be some mention of that in the minutes. Now I understand that since the meeting, some people feel differently and have expressed different views. So, before a decision is made, like in terms of a vote, people, I guess, are entitled to change their mind. But I think that the discussion itself and the general consensus that we were going to proceed in that way should at least appear in the minutes.
So why don't we not approve that set of minutes and just approve the minutes of 3:15?
Well, if everyone's okay with my proposal, then I guess we can approve both, but.
I don't want to approve these minutes yet.
Any of them?
Not the ones from the special meeting.
No, let's approve the minutes of March 15th, the regular meeting.
Wait, hold on one second.
And I'm fine, just for the record, with putting that in, because
Thank you.
I said what I said, and I still agree.
Let's address the minutes of March 15th, 2016. May I have a motion and a second for that set of minutes only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
None opposed?
I abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the volleyball program. Angel Rosado.
It's
Mr.
actually not Angel, it will be Joe Pecora is here instead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Joe Pecora. I'm a vice president of Righthand Youth Football and Cheerleading. We run the volleyball league as a fundraiser to fund our football and cheerleading programs. Primarily, we serve Portchester, Rye, and Rye Brook. We have some from Rye Neck as well, which is basically the makeup of Rye Town Park. We serve them in football, both flag and tackle, and cheerleading for as well. We've done this, I've done it for the past, I guess, 6 or 7 years, and I'm told it's going back over 15, possibly 20 years that I guess they've been doing this at the park. We're just here to ask for approval to continue doing it, and if you have any questions as far as the way we run it or what we do, we are an all-volunteer league, so every dollar that we make goes to the kids. There's no salaries, there's no payment for for myself to run the league and things like that.
Thank you. Any questions?
Except you pay us, is that?
Yeah,
from
there you go. We pay you, we pay insurance and equipment and things like that.
You pay to park these days too, don't you?
What's that?
You pay to park these days? I
No,
forget
that's
how that is.
that's included in.
Okay, it is good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Sounds like a great program.
Same exact program as in past years?
It's identical.
Okay.
We hope,
We
we're
did
a
it
little
every
bit
year.
late this
That's
year
fine.
because of the changes and what have you. So hopefully we'll have as many people come out as in the past. We're delaying it 1 week, or actually 2 weeks. We usually start the week before Memorial Day, and then we don't do Memorial Day, and then we start the following Monday. But now we'll just start after Memorial Day. So hopefully we can rush and have the participation that we have had in the past.
Great, terrific. I don't know if I think we should just have a motion and a second to approve this. I don't think we need it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, good luck.
Thank you.
I second it.
Now something new. Presentation by the Rye Library.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your time. I recognize some faces up there, and it's nice to see the rest of the commission. I'm Chris Shoemaker. I'm the director of the Rye Free Reading Room, and I've submitted a request to use one of the park pavilions for 7 Tuesday mornings during the summer to offer free and from the library public story times that tie in with the New York State summer reading theme, Ready, Set, Read, which encourages literacy and healthy lifestyles. I have a copy of a letter that I sent out with the proposal. If you don't have a copy, I'm happy to
No, we don't-
provide
do
extras.
I didn't see anything in here.
I didn't see it either. We'll make that part of the official record.
And so, yes, we're asking permission to use a pavilion for 7 Tuesday mornings from 9:30 to 10:15 without amplified sound to cover story times for children approximately ages 3 to 5 that would feature themes such as nature, parks, the beach, ocean, and provide an opportunity for families to experience the Storytime Literacy Program at a site outside of the library.
Thank you.
And the parking arrangement you're looking for, Bill, I understand it's the same or
Devin.
similar arrangement
Devin.
to, that is offered to Boot Camp by the Beach?
Yes, it's $2 per car, and obviously we're encouraging the people who live around the park just to walk in, and save gas and also save money. So it seemed like a reasonable thing. The program is free, and as far as I know, we don't have anything else scheduled at that time.
We have the special citizens of the town of Rye.
And they're using one pavilion.
They use one
So-
pavilion, so we have a pavilion.
So they could, have the other pavilion.
Side pavilion.
Yes. So I feel like from the staff's point of view, we think it's a great idea. It's a wonderful way to encourage reading and experiencing the, the themes that he's talking about here. So I'm very much in favor of it.
Thank you.
Will you be advertising this in any other way other than in your newsletter? Because it would maybe nice to try to get it out to not just Rye City residents, but Rye Town residents.
Yeah. Why don't we get
Is
some
there
information?
I
We can put
assume
on
you
the
have
Rye
a
Town. we can put-
listserv that you could maybe, I don't know how you guys communicate with your residents, but
We have weekly, if not bi-weekly, email blasts that go out to our
yeah,
residents.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah. And we'll put it up on the Rye Town Park, Rye Town site and the Rye Town Park site.
So I think it is a great idea, and I think it's also at a day of the week, a Tuesday, and a time of the day, 9:30 to 10:15, where we really don't have to worry about, heavy traffic for other beach uses at that point. The one thing I was thinking, though, is Tuesday, July 5th. I mean, that's the day after the 4th of July. Is everything done by then, or are there rain dates or stuff or fireworks? I don't know. I mean, it just seemed to me that was the only date that stuck in my mind as maybe problematic. Probably not, but I just wanted to figure that one out. Bill and Terry, do you know if?
As of right now, Playland hasn't publicized their fireworks schedule. They told me that it won't be publicized till the end of April. So we're still unaware of when fireworks will
I mean,
actually
obviously,
be.
there's no fireworks at 9:30 in the morning, but.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, if they're gonna do, I don't know when they're gonna do fireworks, so.
Right.
4th of July is a.
Monday.
Yeah.
So my thing is that probably they would do them on Tuesday if there's a rain date.
And I guess, though, if they are on the day before, it might be pretty messy. I don't know if the park is cleaned by 9:30 the next morning. So, Chris,
Yeah,
just something for you to
we'd-
be aware of.
Right, we'd
Maybe
be
put an
able to
asterisk next
accommodate
date.
that. Our staff is there at 6 in the morning
You don't
and
use the
cleaning up.
pavilions, really.
And the pavilions, we stay away from renting the pavilions on 4th of July because we can't guarantee the people are going to get into park. So I try not to rent pavilions on the 4th of July, so they'll be totally clean and ready.
Good stuff. Great.
Thank you. Terrific.
So, Mr. Schumacher, you could send us a flyer, a
Yes.
soft copy of a flyer, and then we can get it out on the different village
Yeah, and
and town.
We can
Yeah,
put it
that
on
would
all
be
the
great.
websites and,
Yep.
Right, Mr.
Be terrific.
Lorenzo?
We'd be happy to provide the information.
Thank you.
Thank
Good-
you.
Will
Terrific
you send it
program.
to Eleanor and
Yes.
Marcus also, because maybe we'll put it on our website.
I'd
Great.
like to move that we approve
Thanks.
this request.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very
Terrific.
much.
Thank you. Park management report?
Hi. You all have in front of you the outline of the park management report for March 10th to March 14th. What I'd like to do is just highlight and go over a few of the things listed on the item, on your report. As far as permits are concerned, letters to all current permit holders and residents of the town of Rye were mailed April 15th and April 14th, and April 15th and April 18th. Our website is updated. It does have our current fee schedule. Personnel, as of the 4th, up to now, we have, as far as maintenance, we have 8 personnel on staff. Security, we have 1 security guard working during the day and 1 security guard working during the night. And Larry Miano is back as the head of security. As far as cashiers, the assistant has started on the 15th of April. We all are in the process of interviewing and hiring for our staff for the season. In addition to that, as far as cashiers, we brought in 2 cashiers on Sunday and Monday. We opened parking for the first time. The computers were installed on Friday the 15th for parking and permits. And I will go over some numbers with you. On the 17th, we opened at 9 and we closed at 4. The total cars entering the park were 461 for a total of $1,235. The number of turnarounds were 144. Permit holders were 43, totaling 129. Resident seniors were 116, and non-permit holders were 158, accounting for 1106 of the total of 1235.
And turnarounds, Terry, I'm sorry, or didn't want to pay?
People didn't want to pay.
Gotcha.
On 4/18, again, we were open from 9 to 4. 228 cars entered the park. Total collected was 560. Turnarounds were 52. Permit holders 13 for $39. Resident seniors 85. Non-permit holders 73 for a total of 511. And we did have the boot camp there, so there were 5 of them at $10. Compared to last year, April of 2015, we were only open 2 days for the whole month, the 18th and the 29th. We collected a total of $17.21. For the 2 days so far that we've been open in 2016, our total is $17.95. So right now we're ahead of the month of April by $74. Parking will be open, weather permitting, every day if the temperature is 68 degrees or more. We make that decision in the morning, and we look at the weather. Generally, what else has been going on? We're looking into purchasing new radios. Our radios are not really communicating the right way with us, and it's the only way we get in touch with each other. We're preparing a list of, for the order of uniform shirts. Quotes for sand and grading are being received. Sand, we're looking for the sand to be delivered and graded starting the end of the week of May 2nd or the beginning of the week of May 9th. We're also looking into installing water coolers in 3 locations throughout the park for the staff rather than us purchasing water from Costco every 2 weeks or so. Pavilion rentals are coming in. We're still getting lots of calls. The Pancreatic Cancer Walk was held on the 17th, and it was a success. I've never seen so many people. I've seen that walk evolve from day one, and it was very well attended. Everyone seemed to enjoy the walk. They basically just walked through our park. It used to start in our park, but it got too big, so it started in Playland. And the other thing, as far as maintenance, all the water is on. The bathrooms are open as of the 16th of April, and they're open till 4:30. On the weekends, we make a decision based on attendance in the park to keep them open longer than that. And they're working on, putting up all the signs, raking the beach, cleaning the beach, the lighting, the timers. They're cleaning the bathrooms. They're putting out garbage pails in the park. And they're working on any areas of the park that need repair or to be painted. The other thing, as of today, we applied for our operating permit. It was submitted to the Board of Health, and we should be getting that back in more than enough time for us to open on the 27th.
Thank you.
No.
Any questions from the
Yeah,
commission?
so, Terry, the statistics that you cited, I don't think they were in the report that we received. So if you could forward them along by email, I'd be curious to look at them a little more closely. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
No
Can
problem.
I have a question on the statistics. So these are things you keep track of every day? And then are they put into a spreadsheet, like something that we could see?
Yes, I do a daily beach sales report broken down by permits, parking, each booth, and a total at the end of the day. And the weather, and if we're open or close, and if we close.
So
And
maybe-
it's always emailed to, it was every Monday it was emailed to Bishop. I don't know what he did with it from that point on.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Debbie Reasoner would send it out to us.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Wait, on a daily basis?
No.
No,
She
I
says
do it
every
on a
Monday.
Monday.
I was going to
Monday.
suggest
No, I do
once
not
a
want
month.
on a daily.
I think once
No,
a
no, no,
month
no.
would
She
be.
said it comes once a week.
Once a week on a Monday, I
Mondays.
would send
So
it,
we can,
yes.
I'm happy if it's once a week or once a month, if anyone else has a preference. I don't need it necessarily once a week, but I would.
I'm fine with once a month.
Once a
Yeah,
month.
it's fine in my packet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so-
should try to get it into our monthly packet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes,
So-
that would be great.
All right.
Okay, no
All right.
problem.
That's terrific.
And just
Great
out of
job.
curiosity, when I
mean, it
love that you
doesn't break
compared
it
with
down-
last year, is on that same spread information, would there be
Okay,
last year?
the spreadsheet on the daily sales report is just revenue coming in. I also do reports that break down month-to-month comparisons, that break down all the information I just went over. So there's two
Because
different.
I like knowing those numbers that you cited.
Right,
That was
there's two different
interesting.
reports. There's
Okay.
the revenue report, and then there's, along with the revenue, there are these numbers.
Okay.
The daily sales report is huge, and the other one is one page and easier to read. So that's the
Maybe-
one you'll get.
Well, since I'm new and Debbie's new.
And
you
I'm
all
new.
are- And you're
And I'm
new,
new.
maybe we could
I get
look
them
at those
all.
at some point and figure out what part of all that information that Terry gives us that we would like. for
Sure,
all of
that's
us to
no
see.
problem.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Two quick remarks. One, I want to thank you for your thoroughness. You make it look easy, actually. I remember when I first started on the commission, getting statistics was worse than root canal. It was tough to do. But now you have great detail, and correlating to the weather, I think, is useful. The only thing I want to mention is I think we have to be sensitive to the turnarounds. And while we're not going to see it on a monthly basis, if you see this as becoming a problem, to Mr. Ambrose's point, right, and some of the speakers last week, and our experience the last time we changed the rates more than people's tolerance for pain, maybe you have to raise a flag if you think it's to a point where we need to reconsider because of the time frame to do that.
Yeah, I
if we're
will
gonna
tell
adjust
you,
pricing.
there were lots of, the 144 that turned around didn't turn around quietly. And I did spend a lot of my day on Saturday, on Sunday, out in the parking.
And what was the posted rate? It was 20?
No, preseason is $3
Okay.
for permit holders and $7 for all others. A lot of the complaints were, how come you have resident rates during the season, but not resident rates for preseason parking? I'm a resident of the town of Rye. Why do I have to pay $7? That was one complaint. The normal complaints of, why are you opening so early? I can't believe it. I'm turning around. So.
You should have resident preseason. Yeah.
Right. So I think one of the things next year, or if you'd like to consider it, again, we're open from now until May 26th doing preseason parking. It's up to you to look into, do you want to just keep the $7 the way it is? Do we want to talk about switching it from just all other $7 to resident, non-resident, and if not this year, maybe next year, let's be a little more cognizant about making that resident, non-resident rate also.
Is that up for discussion, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I didn't even know we had, can you just, so what's the $3, $7? What's the $3?
It's listed on the fee schedule as preseason and postseason parking. So preseason is around April 15th through the day before Memorial Day weekend, which is May 26th this year, the Thursday, because we consider Friday Memorial Day weekend. And the fee schedule states that it's free for resident seniors. It's $3 for all permit holders from last year. And then anyone who doesn't have a permit, whether they're a resident or a resident, this year it's $7.
So I think the argument on that level is that certain people believe that the $7 fee should be reduced for residents.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Right.
Right. So
I mean,
that-
last year it was $5, and, you always get complaints about how much you're charging anyway, but we didn't get as many complaints about the resident, non-resident, but this year it's $7, so, that kind of,
Was it even discussed to make, I don't,
No. That specific fee?
yeah.
No.
it was changed but never discussed. It was changed to $7 but never discussed.
I mean, it was on the table. There are a lot of different levels of fees for holidays, non-holidays, residents, non-residents, time of day, and permit holders, not permit holders. So, I mean, I think it's a valid discussion to have going forward as to whether we want to change those rates or not, but they're in existence right now. And, so far for 2 days, whatever, has not really impacted. But I think, Julie, I think it was your suggestion to keep a rein on it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the numbers come in as, and we can revisit it at any time.
You're right, we didn't discuss it specifically, but what we did discuss specifically was, my recollection is, we wouldn't raise any resident rates. So
That
wouldn't
is
this fall
correct.
under that category?
No, it doesn't, because we never distinguished resident versus non-resident in preseason.
Never before.
Never before. It was always $5.
So the question is whether we should reduce the rates for residents.
I think you should make it.
Creating a new rate, right.
$3 sounds good to me. It's a passive park, preseason.
Does anybody know what, if we took the difference in $2 from the 5 to the 7 times how many people came in the park last year, what the magnitude of that amount is? Is it a number that's going to make a difference?
Approximately how
No,
many
it's
cars
not
you
going to
think?
make a
Yeah.
It's kind of a
difference.
Right.
symbolic gesture, right?
You know,
And
you-
last year you say it was $5?
It
Yeah.
can't be a lot of money.
So what's the big deal, right?
Yeah, it's a
We
passive
could probably pivot on
park,
this
right?
one
You're
pretty
minimally staffed, there's not the beach. Are you open now, John? Is Seaside Johnny's open now?
No.
You're it's
But you're
paying a park.
going to open the first weekend of May, right? Around there.
I would
Yeah.
And that
recommend,
rate,
personally, I would recommend making it $3.
yeah, but that's only for preseason.
Yeah,
Right, that's
exactly.
only
Residents,
preseason.
residents, preseason, $3, yeah.
Okay.
So permit holders, residents, $3, everybody else, 7.
So that's actually a reduction from what it was in the past.
Exactly.
There you go.
Okay.
That's
well,
good,
Can you
right?
restate it so I get it clearly?
We would
So
like to make the
we're going to make
residents
this change,
the
correct?
same as
Because
permit
I have
holders.
to make software changes before we pre-open, again, before we open again.
When do you reopen again?
I'm looking right now at the weather, and it looks like we'll open parking Thursday. Because it looks like it's going to be like in the 70s again.
I don't know how long it's going to take to make that change. Maybe we should make that change effective next Monday, if we're going to make the change.
How, is it
I
a,
can make it effective
She can handle it.
as
She can do
quickly
it.
as you
do
want
it.
it to be.
Okay, fine.
And it's not gonna, we don't have the exact analysis, but you say it's not gonna be a significant impact on the budget.
well, I asked for the difference between 5 and 7. I didn't ask between 3 and 7, so maybe I'll ask this the question again.
I mean,
If
$3
The
for-
$4 it's going to be $4
Again, you know,
times.
your percentage of residents versus non-residents is still in the 10, 8% compared to the total use of people coming to the park.
Saying it's more non-residents,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
saying.
definitely.
Well, let's incent our residents to
Right.
go there
Absolutely.
more.
So what
Absolutely.
is it, $3 you said?
I would recommend $3.
What was
for-
it last year?
5.
5.
It was
We have a
5 for
choice of
everyone.
3,
There
5,
wasn't a
anything-
differential between resident
5,
and
or 7.
non-resident.
It was 5 for everyone
Other
last
than
year.
permit holders, yes.
That's too expensive. Passive park.
And then,
Well, the only issue there, though, with making it 3 versus 5 is that then the permit holders, they pay for a permit. And we're
I would say
giving
make
away
it 5.
something.
You know, make it 5
Then
and
we have
7.
then
I think
people
we're
have less
overanalyzing this a
incentive.
little bit.
Yeah,
They could
really.
also go to Playland and park for free.
Right now, Playland is, there's
They have to
nobody
walk
there,
all the
so
way over.
that's where everybody went at the 144 and turnarounds and went over to Playland. Because they could get in, they could park for free. I mean,
Well, it can't be
you could
free,
tell,
so-
you could tell the difference between the parking
could
lot
be
and
free.
what was in the park. And you saw them walking over from
How many
Playland.
cars do you get a day? I was there the other day when it was a beautiful day,
Okay,
and it
I
was
told
free,
you.
actually. I was elated. I paid a park. But there were maybe 30 cars.
Again, there were 461 cars that came in and parked on Sunday.
that's a weekend, yeah.
And 222 on Monday.
200 on Monday.
Yeah, 222.
well, I
228.
think what's before us is whether we should make a new resident parking rate for the off-season period of $5 and leave the $7 non-resident rate in effect. Is that correct? Julie, is that your understanding?
Well, we've talked about $5 and $3, so
I think
and
you're,
I just,
I could go with that.
I think $5 is okay. I
Okay,
just, I
fine.
don't want to incent the
Okay.
permit holders not to buy any permits, that, so.
It's going to get very confusing, but I think, I agree with you, you really shouldn't punish the permit.
Mike.
The people who bought the permits, this is a way of thanking them by giving them a discount. So, I mean, one way to, I guess it gets very complicated, but you could say residents and permit holders, whatever number, and non-resident, non-permit holders, the other number. I mean, it's a lot for just a
So,
few weeks.
but people, so if people aren't buying the permits for really preseason, they just buy a permit and they happen
But
to have
it's
it.
been
They're
done
really
for
buying it
years
for
and
the
years,
summer
though.
for the savings.
But it's been going on for years where this has been the way it is the following year. So people, I think some of the permit holders expect it.
Well, we're not going to change them. It's just a question of whether or not the
But if
residents
they're
are
a
$3 or
resident-
$5.
What about
and-
non-resident permit holders?
They pay $3.
So they still pay $3?
Yeah, we're not changing the non-resident permit holders.
Okay.
It's just the
I think
residents.
residents should pay the same amount. $3.
Okay.
The
That's
motion
not a
is,
problem.
the motion is to reduce, to effectively reduce the resident rate for the off-season period, the preseason period, and I assume the postseason period, from $7 to $5. Is that correct? Okay, that is the motion. May I have that is the resolution proposed. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Commissioner Killian,
Yes.
Commissioner Pilla,
No, I want 3.
Commissioner Sack,
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro, Commissioner Rosenberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Zuckerman.
Yes. Thank you.
Any
Okay.
other questions?
Go get them, Tara.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
I'd
Bill?
just like to add a couple things. I'd like to add a couple things about beyond the finances. First of all, nobody mentioned it, but I am under the impression that the Wainwright House is honoring the Friends of Rye Town Park in May. I think it's May 19th. Is that right? Yeah.
Congratulations.
And it's what they call their Heart and Soul Award. And if there's any group that deserves, receiving such an award, it's the Friends of Rye Town Park for all their years of service and, dealing with all the complications and aspects of operating the park, that they've been steadfast in their support. And I just also would like to add that they are continuing to recruit volunteers to help on a long-term basis to try to make the park a better place. And they've assured me that, people who are interested in volunteering, they would be happy to work with them to try to find ways that they can be effective. But I would say again that it would be great for as many people as possible to come out in support of the Friends in receiving this award at Wainwright House on Thursday, the 19th. And it's like 12 to 2:30 or something like that.
Have they sent out invitations yet?
They're in the process of doing it now.
They're in process.
Yes, and if any of you would like to send any list you might have, I imagine there'll be a lot of overlap, but it never hurts to get as many invitations out as you possibly can.
Thanks, Bill. Item number 8, discussion of selection process for the park director. I'm not going to reiterate what's gone on over the last month or so, except to say that we have had numerous applications submitted and resumes submitted for the position of park director, and whereas we should not discuss any individual in public session, the purpose of this item on the agenda is to discuss the selection process for how to choose a park director. Given, what do we have, about 15 applications, Debbie? Possibly more, more than that. So some are obviously probably more qualified than others. So I think that it's up to the commission to decide how to go forward to make a selection of a park director. What I'd like to do is start left to right and to make suggestions. I mean, I obviously have my own ideas. I'm sure each of you does. And Dennis, why don't you start? what would you like to, how would you like to go about this process?
Narrow this down to the top 3 and interview the top 3. I do think we have to give consideration to, I also think we have to give consideration to whether or not we want to make a change. One thing that I have concern with is with so many people being new, is there enough continuity, and can Terry and Bill, and this is not a question mark of my confidence in either of you, but it's more, how much wood is there to chop in that park, and do you guys have enough capacity to deal with it, with you being new, Mr. Chair, respectfully, and your staff, we might have been better off just staying with the status quo until we figure out what we want the park to become, and then launch based on something like that. Be that as it is, though. So I think we should give consideration for the incumbent if that's still an option on the table.
Obviously, this is a seasonal position, so there is no actual incumbent. If you're referring to the person who previously held the position, that person did submit another application, and I'm sure that certain members of the commission would like to consider him in the interview process. Paul?
Thank you, Gary. I think that I agree with Mayor Pilla that we should interview the top 3 candidates. We've received, 10 or 15 applications, whatever it is. I've been through all of them. I think that Terry's doing a great job. I think we need to consider a stipend for her for the time being, and move forward with Terry as acting park director and take it from there.
Joe?
Sure. So, look, we had a special meeting a couple weeks ago on May 30th, and I think we had a healthy and fulsome discussion at that meeting, and I'd like to focus on the positive, which is the outcome of that meeting was an unequivocal consensus that it's a commission decision to select a park manager. It's not the decision of one of the municipalities or one of the people from one of those municipalities. It's a group decision. So I think that at the end of the day is a good place to be. Unfortunately, it took us so long to get to that point, to that right outcome, that we wasted a heck of a lot of time. And so the process to select a park manager is a group process, but because we're only starting now, or we only started 2 weeks ago, we're behind the 8 ball. And really because of the timing issues now, we're scrambling. And in fact, I know that Terry has been having some of her assistants try to do things that maybe Terry would have normally been doing, so that Terry can try to fill the empty spot of a park director. So there's a lot of juggling going on, and I appreciate that. So, but unfortunately, I don't think we have time to waste. And if we were going to have a process to select a new park manager, I think that it really should have started months ago. And it's been my view from the beginning of the year. I would concur with Mayor Pilla that my view has always been that under the circumstances, it makes eminent sense to go with the formula and go with the management team, of which Terry and Bill are certainly a part, at least for this first year, so that new people, new supervisors, new confidential secretaries can have an opportunity to go through a season and see firsthand what the issues are. I know that I've been on the Righthand Park Commission for many of the past 4 years now, maybe 5 years, and I've been on the City Council for 8 or 9 years. So I've been aware of the issues for a lot longer. And one of the things that struck me about Fred's application was he just attached the list of accomplishments that we all know about, that we've discussed at prior meetings. So to me, I think that that's not only the safest way to go, but the smartest way to go. And certainly, I'd be willing to have, a wider discussion about what to do for next year, and we're going to do that for sure. But I think given the timing of where we're at, given the weather that we've had, given all the people that have been coming to the park that Terry told us about, it's not that the season is starting soon, the season's already started. And I think that for us to continue with a process, a good intentioned process of trying to narrow it down and trying to interview people and trying to make a decision and maybe offering it to someone else, although I don't think anyone else is as qualified as Fred. But, it's if we're lucky, it's still another month away before we have somebody ready to go. And then that person, whoever it may be, if it's someone other than Fred, has to now kind of learn the ropes when the season's already started. So, I think it's just kind of academic. I think that, it's great that we all now have decided that it's a group process, but because of the timing issues, and quite frankly, because I think that Fred's the best anyway, I think that my suggestion would be, and I could even make it as a motion, is to just, short circuit this process and just acknowledge reality, which is we need to fill the spot now, and that, we're exposed to management risk right now, we're exposed to financial risk. Fred would, I believe, probably accept the same salary he had last year, and we wouldn't have to pay him the additional $30,000, which was escrowed in the budget. So I think from that perspective, it makes sense too. So that's where I'm netting out. I appreciate that. There's a desire to continue with the process, and I think we should. But unfortunately, I don't think we can have a resolution to that process in time for the effective management of the park and meeting our responsibilities to the residents of the town of Rye and the city of Rye. So that's my preference, and that's my proposal.
Thank you. Julie?
With reference to specifically the process for the park director, I am not comfortable hurrying this decision because I think it's a very big decision. So I, have some of the same concerns about we've made a lot of changes. So one concern is what to do between now and when we hire another person. As far as the actual process, assuming we go forward this, I am not comfortable with just the top 3 because I have more than 3 people that I would like to interview. I don't know exactly what the right number is. I would argue at least 5, but I was going to suggest that we all look through the resumes and put in our, you guys have 3, 5, whatever it is, and then see what comes up.
I'm fine.
I also think we need to put aside time to interview them. And if we can figure out a time that we can all get together and then all, a group of people can show up. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, just logistically speaking. So I don't think that can happen quickly no matter what we do. Right. So we do have to figure out something between now and whenever that is.
I agree with you on the number, and I think it should be the top 5 to be interviewed. And to that extent, each of us could send to Debbie a list of the names in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whoever is the lowest. In other words, if everybody has one person as number 1, they're going to get 6 votes, for example. So we can figure out the top 5 candidates, circulate that number amongst ourselves, determine if there are 1 or 2 others that may possibly be qualified as well, that perhaps the majority would like to see, settle on a number, and conduct interviews as quickly as possible. In the interim, it is my feeling that Terry is doing a very good job. And Terry, in fact, has submitted her application to become the park director. And along with, I said in the beginning, names should not be mentioned, but Terry is right in front of us, and I think she's been doing an excellent job, and I think most of us would agree that she's been doing a great job so far, and should certainly be considered permanently.
I would feel more comfortable talking specifics about this in executive session, not here.
Well, I agree, but I don't think we have time. May I suggest that for this time, we submit names to Debbie, and we'll come to a conclusion about 5 people. And then we'll decide to set a date for an interview and invite people to come interview. And hopefully that whole process could take 30 days.
So I would just like to also, with regard to the timing issue that I raised, because this was only posted a couple weeks ago, and because it was only posted so late in the season, you know, my feeling is that the depth and the breadth of the applicants that we've received is not what we would have received if we put this out in January or even sooner, because, you know, people that are looking for part-time or summer employment that are worth their salt have already applied for and received jobs for the summer by now. So we're not getting the people that would have normally been in the hopper for this type of work. So that's, you know, and we can't fix that. We can't fix that. And again, I would just return to my point of, you know, Fred has actually done the job for the past 8 years, and he's done it successfully. And, you know, to reject that experience and to reject those accomplishments, for me, who's been part of this commission, actually feels somewhat insulting that, you know, that the hard work that we've done and the results that we've achieved are almost being disregarded and rejected. And I mean, if Fred were not willing to come back and we're not interested, you know, okay, that's one thing. But here we have him,
Joe,
ready to go.
Joe, I really don't think we
No,
should
no.
be discussing pros and cons of a single individual out in public session. Okay? I really don't think we should be doing
I've asked for an executive
that.
session. I
That's
know you say
correct.
we don't have time, but this is really important.
Well, we've
So
praised
I don't know what
Fred
the answer
from
is,
this dais
but
on many occasions in past years. I mean, this is not, I'm not saying anything that hasn't already been said many, many times. So, so that's where I'm at. I think that the urgency of this is such that, and the timing of this is such that we have to act now. And my suggestion would be, you know, that we just say, we have someone who can do the job, let's hire that person now, and then table the discussion for when we actually have time to have it, for who we may want to have for next year.
Right now,
But if there's no one else that feels the same way, then
Terry's managing
so
the
be it.
park fine right now. I don't see that there's any need to rush to make a change at this point. And
I think
in
it's a cry
fact,
for help.
Terry may in fact end up to be the park manager. I don't know that. I'm not going to prejudge that.
I really feel that we should have, even if it's only 5 minutes, that we should discuss this in executive session. And
Or
I know
schedule a
that you-
special meeting.
Or
to
schedule a
do
special
that
meeting or
early next week.
conference call or
Please,
whatever
no
it
more special
is.
meetings. We have jobs here.
I know, I realize that, which is why I would like
Tough getting everybody in the room.
5 minutes right now.
You know,
if that's possible.
One more point, actually, I'd like to make. Mayor Sack makes a great point, actually. If it's gonna take us a month to board somebody, that's like Memorial Day, and then there's a ramp up and stuff like that.
It will be an issue with good candidates.
Yeah, and
I don't know
the other thing, I'm really not comfortable at the salary levels we were initially, or that were initially being discussed. 30 is a nice sweet spot for me.
Well, we don't know that anybody's getting anything other than that, because we haven't discussed that issue.
Yeah.
So, what I would like to do then is continue our discussion of the RFQ process now, and then if you would like to make a motion to go into executive session at the end so that we could handle the personnel item, then we should do that. Is that acceptable?
I think we should get it over with, quite honestly.
Well, I think you had said that there would be time for comment from the public at this agenda item, and it looks like we have somebody.
Well, if we're going to go into an executive session,
I know, I don't want to drag this night out. It's already gone on too long. I think that Joe is on the right track. I think maybe 5 minutes in executive session. Julie has a good idea. The park is open. We need a manager.
Yeah.
Terry's doing a great job, but Terry's doing the job of 2 people. If the pleasure of the board is not to bring back the person who was the manager last year, it seems to me that for the rest of this season, promoting Terry up and searching. I don't know if Bill would want to take the assistant manager job, or if you want to do a job search for an assistant manager. The park should not suffer for lack of direction and management, and it is a little bit late to be doing a job search for a season that's basically already started. I think at this point, you need to be doing a job search for somebody next year and have a lengthy discussion about what you're looking for in your candidate, what you want to pay them, and what the job requirements are going to be. But let's get this fixed tonight so we have a manager before you
I make a motion
leave.
to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, and this is an executive session for particular personnel matter, and we will be coming back after and go into public session again. We do not have the doors,
Is there a
so
place to go?
there's no place to go.
We can.
No, the room has to be cleared. The room has to be cleared.
Sorry, this
please.
happened last time.
Very small little room.
Can we just go to a small room?
It's fine.
We